came out in 49, 50 from Europe with mum and dad, displaced persons, and Dad was in the English Army towards the end of the war, so he had a choice of going to Australia, Canada, Poland, but nobody wanted to go back to Poland because of the communist regime. So Dad chose Australia and we came out. We landed in Newcastle, and from there we were shipped to Cunnamulla, but at the time there wasn't enough accommodation for the migrants, and in Cunnamulla the council set up a tent city, tent town, and all the migrants lived in army marquee tents. So we lived in a marquee tent for 2 years till Dad repaid the government for the ship fares. After that we went to West Australia. We drove to West Australia in an old 48 Merc to Dad's sister's area where they were working in Whitnum Gorge, and obviously that was the asbestos mines, but Dad didn't work in the asbestos mines, but we lived in the town, which was not far from the mine site. After Whitnum Gorge we came back in 1954. We settled in Melbourne in Newport. And my working career started in a bank, but it just wasn't my thing, and I decided to do a trade, and I did a trade in a boiler shop as a boilermaker welder. When I finished my apprenticeship in '69, I went to West Australia, which was having the iron ore boom at the time, and over in West I worked for a couple of companies, and we were doing a lot of work, maintenance work for the Shell installations in Port Hedland, Broome, Kununurra, and from there I went to Darwin when Gove was starting up, the project in Gove, and worked in Darwin for a while with a tank and vessel manufacturer, and from there came back to Melbourne in 1970 and started to get involved in a lot of refinery and pipe work and that type of thing, and working on small pipelines around the place, and then on the Westgate Bridge, welding on the Westgate Bridge, doing all the stiffeners in the boxes and so forth. And it was there that I met all the boys from Bass Strait, you know, Freddie wasn't there, but George Emery, John Savio, Les Taylor, Ian McLaren, and when the main line started I got a chance to test and go and work on the main line, and this was 74, early 74, and from then on in it was just I just loved the pipeline industry and have been involved ever since, working for different companies, and then eventually starting a mechanical contracting company myself with a partner, Tony DiGioacchino, and we operated in the 80s right through to the 90s on a lot of projects like the Jackson project with PBM, and work in Moomba, doing work for Santos on jobs in Tirrawara and Talachi, all pipeline industry. And then I sold my share of the company, and Jeff Shepherd asked me to join McConnell Dowell, which I did in '92, and have been with them ever since. The big break came when I got a chance to get on the Sydney Moomba line, which was late '73, early '74. When the pipe was cracking and they couldn't repair it, and there was no obvious solution for changing consumables or whatever, it was decided that the only way to go would be to repair the cracks in the root, just under the root and in the heat affected zone, by internal repair. So it was decided that we would repair the pipe from the inside and 4 of us were chosen and tested to go up inside the pipe and to repair it. On doing so, we started just out of West Wyalong in western New South Wales and ended up somewhere just behind Goulburn. And in that period we completed somewhere in the vicinity of 1,400 plus repairs. The repairs, the actual machine was a Hobart diesel, and it was driven, and it had a motor and gearbox attached with lights, and the welder would sit in the seat, and behind him we had a light either side, and then the machine was at the back. We had electric start with a battery, and there was a pressure wheel to the top of the pipe, and that was by huge springs that kept the drive wheel, which was about 8 inches wide and had a traction, synthetic traction, which grabbed on the pipe and took us up. So we would reverse up the pipe, and sealing us off from the fumes was a rubber seal. And on moving up the pipe, obviously there was a huge noise, but at the time, you know, there wasn't much in the way of PPE equipment. You couldn't wear earmuffs, because when you put your helmet down, they just pushed the earmuffs off your head. So it was cotton wool and paper masks all round. We would go up the pipe somewhere in the vicinity from anywhere from 30 to 40 metres, to the furthest we went was about 1.4 kilometres. And what would happen when we went up the pipe, somewhere about 2 kilometres away, there would be a cutout. They would dig up the pipe and cut it out, and they would put like an extractor fan, and that would sort of draw the fumes off. You couldn't have it too strong because it removed your protective shield from your welding. The fumes, as you know, is a protective shield, so it had to be a balanced medium. But going up the pipe, it wasn't always straight. We were going around bends, up over bends, and going backwards. And the worst situation we came across was the pipes were full of water in low areas. No nightcaps were left on, so the pipes filled up with water. And going up backwards, the only thing you knew was that you were sitting in water, and it was getting deeper and deeper, so you just pushed the machine into forward gear and took it out. And then you got on an electric trolley with a torch, with a dolphin lantern, and went up to sea, and the pipe was 34-inch pipe, was full of water. And then they had to pull hoses in and pump the water out before we could go in. Yeah, we had some close calls. We nearly got killed in the pipe. We went up, and we were on a steep hill, and we'd done the repair, carried out the repairs, and coming out, as I went over the crest of the hill, the whole braking system sheared off, and we actually roller skated, flying down the pipe, because the pipe, the machine actually weighed almost a tonne, and coming up the pipe was the Williams Brothers inspector on an electric trolley, so we collected him. So there was 3 of us now inside this, coming out at great knots, and I was looking, because the boys were looking up the pipe, I'm looking down the pipe, and I can see the end coming up, and I thought, here we go, we're coming right out the end of this like human cannonballs. And the machine pulled up 4 joints from the end, and I can tell you the heart was beating a little bit. We all got out shaken and a little bit excited. So we told the CRC technician that we wouldn't go up the pipe until it was all repaired. 2 days later it was all repaired, and we were back up the pipe and doing repairs again. Another problem we had, aliens up the pipe. We go up after this incident with the water, where we could have been a lot worse. We got the electric trolleys, and the welder would go up and do an inspection before we went up in the moon machine. And I'm going up one time, I got the torch on, and I look in the pipe, and there's 2 eyes looking back at me in the pipe. And I got a little bit of a scare. What the hell is this? So I just slowly edged up, and there it was a sheep, and that was about 500 metres up the pipe. So I grabbed him by the leg, and he wasn't real happy, but I ended up towing him out. But the stench inside the pipe, because obviously he'd been in there for a few days and unloaded a bit, and it was rotten. So we had to clean that out before we could actually go past and do the repairs. But it certainly gave me a bit of a shock to see some eyes looking back at me in the pipe. Yeah, that was an experience, It was an adventure, and it was a challenge, and at 28, 29 years old with a mortgage and a young family, I mean, no one thought anything about it. You just went and did the job, and that was it. You were paid very well, and the money sort of offset a lot of stuff. All the fears of claustrophobia and danger went out the window when the money was right. Another one that I found very good, and enjoyed very much working with the team that we had, was Mount Isa to Belair. It was the 800 kilometres of gas line, and the challenges on that job was obviously the terrain, but the management, our management was right on the ball there, and came up with brand new equipment, and the whole psychology of the job was to make it go well, which it did. And we finished the whole project about 2 months ahead of schedule, and I was an inspector there working with a tremendous guy, Merv Campbell, and Merv was on front end and I was on back end, and I think I'm about the only one that walked from Mount Isa to Belair doing visual inspections on the back end of the pipe, and noting numbers and that type of thing. So that was an excellent project. The Telfer project, the more recent, I think about 2005, again, from Port Hedland to the Telfer mine, which was in the Pilbara, and 450 kilometres. So it was out of Hedland all the way into the, I'm not sure what desert it is. I think it's Tanami or something like that. 400 kilometres into the desert, living in the camps. And there wasn't even kangaroos there. There was only wild camels and dingoes. So, but again, that was a good, productive project. But the only downside was the stoppages through cyclones, where we were shut down twice and sent home for months at a time until the land had dried out, and we were able to start again, but all the area was inundated after the cyclones and everything like that, Oh, well, obviously Jeff Shepherd was one that, there's only one Jeff. They threw the mould away after him, and it's good to see him around on the jobs, but he made such a difference to the Australian pipeline industry, and yeah, it's a shame that he's not involved like he was before these days, But colourful people like, Tom Ford was fantastic to work with. People like Ian McLaren, who was our Union Dello, and there was Carter Johnson in the early days, and there was no nonsense Carter, and people like Peter England were another people. But some of the greatest guys that we worked with, and I think they're gone now, but was Peter Anderson and John Bristow, magnificent organisers, Jimmy Gubb, people like that, brilliant people, and they're just irreplaceable to the industry. Some of the characters over the years, not only from the contractor's point of view, but from the clients, And you know, characters like Graham Whitty was fantastic, Vin Pollock with the gas and fuel, Peter Rorsheim from Santos, Richard Robinson, who was involved in the industry, and who else was there? Mark Twycross has always been good, but yeah, it was an industry that had a great camaraderie between not only the contractors but the clients, and it was work hard and produce, and everybody was happy in those days, you know. The 70s and 80s were fantastic years, and people you work with, it was always a team effort. It wasn't just us and them, it was us, the client and the contractor worked together in those days, you know. The requirements seem to be a lot harder and stricter than they were before, and in effect it has a detrimental effect as it slows the whole industry down. It's not like it was before where we got in and just, you know, burnt up pipe and made things happen. You can't do this because of this. The environmental people shut you down if they're not happy about something. The OH&S people come and shut you down if they're not happy. So a lot of the times you're just working to keep them happy, but you're not producing, and that's the difference. I just enjoy my work so much, and with McConnell Dowell, it's been a great 19 years. I'm hoping to get, you know, my 25 years up with them at least, and my 20 years comes up next year, so I'm looking forward to that. But no, I just love to keep working. As long as my health keeps up, I'd love to keep working till I'm 70, and then, you know, just if I would be of some help to the industry, I'd love to do some consulting work or that type of thing. But at the moment, I'm still with McConnell Dowell. I'm the internationally accredited certified senior welding inspector and welding superintendent. So I basically look after most of their welding problems or welding situations, procedures, that type of thing. It's a great industry, it's a magnificent industry, and I'm just proud to be part of it. And the years that I've put in, I hope I've contributed to, you know, to it, and yeah, and that's about it, mate.